My name's Tanya the Ghoul, and today I will be looking at public domain alternatives for the channel SML. Also, before we start the video, I'd like to stress that I do not endorse any of the stereotypes that are held by certain characters like Black Yoshi and or Joseph, and for the same reason, I did not add Jackie Chu or any other kind of character like that. I added Joseph and Black Yoshi because they were different enough to be separate from their stereotype, but they still have their stereotype somewhat attached. So please, when watching this, just know that I do not endorse any of these stereotypes, and I think they're very awful. Alright, now let's get started with the video. Now, to start off, we have the early puppetry works of Jim Henson. These characters were often used in commercials and short-lived TV shows. With these characters, you can use them freely as long as you do the research on what you can and cannot do. And also, if you want to use other, pre-Muppets Jim Henson character, you will have to do the research on if they're still copyrighted or not, or if the company they're representing is still a business or not. Because if it's still a business, chances are that the character is still under their copyright. But if it's not, then you have a bigger chance of the character being public domain. But I would suggest doing research just in case, But as it stands, these Muppet characters are public domain, meaning you can use them for an SML type channel, if you so please. For Marvin, you can use Mickey Mouse, the Toreador from El Terrible Toreador, Popeye, Barney Google, Everett True, the most based character in all of fiction, or you can use the neighbor character from Blondie, as well as this political cartoon character. For Jeffy, you can use Jack Pumpkinhead, the Scarecrow from Wonderful Wizard of Oz, Sweet Pea, Simple Simon, Pinocchio, Charlie Brown from Little Folks, although he was called something else, Tom and or Jerry from the Tom and Jerry cartoons by Van Buren, or Stupid Man. For Rose, you can use Betty Boop, Olive Oyl, Minnie Mouse, the waitress from El Terrible Toreador, Mrs. True, the Snow Queen, if you want to keep the Rosalina type thing going on, or Blondie. For Braxton, you can use Bluto, but only the first few appearances, Pete when he was a bear or cat, a Tarrasque to pay homage to when he was Bowser at one point, Roundsteak, or you can use Tor from the early Popeye comics. For Junior, you can use when Pete the Bear had a kid, that's his kid right there, Dennis the Menace, the Cow's Jammer Kids, a baby Tarrasque, Super Brat, or Catnip. For Joseph, we have Churchy the Turtle, Tim the Turtle, the Tortoise from Tortoise and the Hare, both the Looney Tunes short right there, as well as the original Fable, and the Boxing Turtle from the Flip the Frog cartoon. For Cody, I kind of did him a little dirty, but I decided to use a Kappa, Gremlin, Imp, Goblin, a Duende, as well as a Kobold. And you can have them be the smart, wise character, the one who's usually the voice of reason. And, instead of using science and machines, you can have them use magic to differentiate him from the Cody character from SML. And you could also, personify them to make them more human-like if you wanted to. For Chef Pee-Pee, we have Chef Boyardee, but only his first few appearances until 1930, Speedy the Burger Chef, the Pie Man, the Duchess Cook from the Alice in Wonderland novel, as well as the Fry Cook from the Popeye comics. For Goodman, we have I Can't Afford Lots, Bolivar, the Income Tax Collector, Mr. Peanut, all the way to 1930, Scrooge from A Christmas Carol, as well as the first few appearances of Richie Rich, but only in certain comics. For Brooklyn Guy, we have Warden Paws, Officer Bullpup, Foxy, Horace Horsecollar, as well as the detective from the first few Popeye comics until 1930. For Black Yoshi, we have the Golby Gecko, Dimples the dinosaur, Albert Gator, as well as the dancing alligators / crocodiles from the Disney short. For Woody, we have the Buffalo Bill Kid, Wyatt Earp, and the ostrich riding cowboy, which, yes, the toys from the Island of Misfit Toys and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer are technically public domain. However, it's mainly these toy characters who are, because they were not copyrighted or trademarked, but they are still associated with a movie that is trademarked and copyrighted and will get you sued if you have the exact version. So you're going to have to, differentiate the design and character a little bit so you don't get sued. But yes, the ostrich riding cowboy technically is public domain to an extent. But Rudolph himself, as well as Herbie the elf, are not public domain, so tread on this with a grain of salt, please. For Shrek, we have Quasimodo, Frankenstein's monster, Flip the clown, the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, the idea of an Oni from Japanese mythology, the idea of an ogre or orc-like character, and of course, Grendel from Beowulf. For Greg the Devil, we have the devil from Hell's Bells, the Walt Disney short, which I think is pretty cool, because he's a cartoony, goofy devil just like Craig is. So I thought that would work perfectly. For Tony the Tiger, well, you could obviously use Tony the Tiger here, but only the first appearance of him. And you cannot use him to promote cereal or anything like that. You can mainly use him for, an SML-like work. And you can't fully use Tony. You'd have to use a different name. But you could basically use the same idea and design as you see here. And yes, you can also have him howling if you want. For Doofy the Dragon, if you want to commit harakiri to your channel and lose all monetization, you can use the Reluctant Dragon. And there we have it. Public domain alternatives for SML. Was there any other characters you wanted me to add? Do you want me to make a part 2? Is there anything else you'd like to request for next video? Please donate to my Ko-fi page if you can. It will help the channel a lot. And with that being said, please like and subscribe and leave a follow if you can. I'm Tanya the Cool, and I'll see you all next time.
Now I'm able to lay my cable